Hey, welcome to Spectral Echoes, a collection of Reddit stories as told by people high as a kite. But it's Reddit, who knows, right? If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you don't miss out on these awesome horror stories. Now, let's get started.
Sometimes you wake up and notice things aren't exactly where I left them, but maybe you're just forgetful, right? 1. Blur mark on mirror. I have never believed in the supernatural. Ghosts, spirits, vengeful ghosts. All of them are just stories to tell late at night. There's nothing scary about them, especially when you're tired. Your mind is being played with by the fickleness of life, or you're low on caffeine and you have 5 deadlines in the morning. Fuck you. I'm a technical person. I believe in physics, in humidity, in refracted light, in electromagnetic frequencies. I explain everything with systems and numbers. I've built this belief for 30 years, and I've never doubted or changed it. So, I hate the fact that I have to write this. I moved into apartment 304 at the end of April. It was a pretty good deal for me. Close to work, high floor, good lighting, basic furniture. The bathroom was a little small, but clean. There was a square mirror hanging on the wall above the sink, old but serviceable. If only it had been surprisingly cheap, or if there had been some buzz around it. Fuck, I paid a hefty brokerage fee, and almost 5% above market value to move in early. Motherfucker, I thought that was a fair price. I might have considered it. However, everything was so normal, I basically didn't think anything of it. And that normalcy lasted less than 10 days. The first time I noticed the fogging was on the 9th day after moving in. After a hot shower at night, the mirror was completely foggy. I wiped it off with a towel, then went to bed. The next morning, I brushed my teeth and saw, right in the middle of the mirror there was a small, round, even area of fog, like someone's palm pressed against it. I sighed, thinking it was simply an old steam stain that hadn't been cleaned off, or it was from the breath when I washed my face. I wiped it again. Done. The next day, it was back. The same circle. The same spot. I started to pay attention. Sorry, but I couldn't stand the thought of something appearing and ruining the existing perfection. In general, I tried everything. Dry cloth, wet cloth, wiping in circles, wiping horizontally, vertically. But after only a day, sometimes half a day, the stain was back just like before. Damn it. I started to suspect that there was a problem with the mirror. It could be a silver coating defect on the back. Once the reflective layer is damaged, the light scatters abnormally. It could also be that the steam condenses at a spot with a lower temperature than the surrounding area, due to the structure of the mirror surface not being flat enough. That's all. I took the mirror down and checked the front and back. Nothing unusual. I even checked the wall behind it for any holes or anything unusual, the kind that could cause temperature differences or something. But there wasn't any, absolutely nothing. However, I didn't have time to deal with this right away. The following week, which was my 3rd week in the apartment, I bought a new mirror from IKEA. I installed it myself. Everything was fine. The first few days were smooth. I thought it was okay, but no. On the 4th day, the mark was back. I remember standing in the bathroom for more than 10 minutes that morning, staring at the circular mark on the mirror, trying to convince myself that I was imagining things. I had been standing there for so long that I had forgotten that I still had my toothbrush in my hand. What could a circular mark do? It didn't do anything, but it completely ruined my mood, and left me with a vague fear of something I couldn't explain with any reason I could accept. After that, I pasted newspaper on the mirror, covered it up. No more mirror. The next morning, the paper was still there, covering the entire mirror. But strangely, in the middle of the paper there was a wet area, a circle, like a child's handprint. It was wet as if someone had pressed a wet hand against it from behind. I was shaking slightly, but the amplitude was increasing steadily, and I shakily opened my diary. For those who don't know, I'm a software engineer and I have a habit of writing down most things I find important or questions I haven't answered. Forget about bugs. In short, I opened the diary, recording each occurrence of the watermark, date, time, location. After about 3 weeks, I noticed something. The mark was receding. Slowly, only an inch or two at a time, but it was definitely moving toward the sink. I measured it. I took a picture. I marked it. And I started thinking, if it's receding, then what is it headed for? One night, I tried to put my hand on the mark and realized it was cold, unlike the rest of the mirror. I pulled my hand away, my heart racing strangely. I told my best friend about this. He laughed and said I was too stressed. He suggested that if I was still worried, I should try asking a realtor or neighbor to see if anyone knew anything. But this was obviously not very effective. I also asked but got no information. The broker clearly didn't say a word, and as for the neighbors, I tried asking them, but most of them just shook their heads and said they didn't know. Maybe they really didn't know, because it seemed like they had just moved in not long ago. My friend was even more certain that I was thinking too much. He said, "You probably touched it unconsciously. Be careful, you might be sleepwalking." My first reaction was that this was absurd, because I had never shown signs of sleepwalking or anything similar. This was confirmed by my parents, friends, and people who lived in the same dormitory with me before. However, I would rather go around in the middle of the night than do it myself. So I needed to verify. I bought a mini camera, the kind with a night sensor, mounted it opposite the mirror, set it to continuous. That night I went to bed earlier than usual, feeling anxious. The next morning, I turned on the video. Everything was fine, until exactly 3:11 a.m. The video froze. Not a black screen. Not static. Just like someone had paused the video for exactly 11 seconds. Then everything started playing normally again. I replayed it again, and then again. My heart was pounding. I couldn't explain it. Only one thing was certain. During those 11 seconds, the camera was on, but it wasn't recording. I started dreaming. Not exactly a nightmare, just very strange. It wasn't real, but I knew I was dreaming. Just a dream, as if it wasn't mine anymore, but someone else's trying to make me watch it. The images were blurry. The sink, a wet hand, the sound of dripping water, and the mirror gradually fading until I couldn't see myself in it anymore. I woke up in the middle of the night, my heart pounding. That morning, the blur was at eye level. No longer falling. It was at eye level. I looked at it. The blur wasn't blurred. It was like a print, a message without words. Reflected in the mirror, I saw myself. And behind me, slightly blurred, was a figure. Very small. Indistinct. But definitely a figure. I turned around, no one. Just the white wall. I looked back at the mirror. The mirror was back to normal, no figure. I shivered. And at that moment, I knew I couldn't take it anymore. I did the only thing I knew would end it. I smashed the mirror. Then covered the area with a piece of cloth. I didn't need it anymore, right? The adrenaline rush that ran through my body when I touched the hammer. I hit it once. Twice. The mirror shattered, clattering to the floor like glass rain. No wonder many people use the method of smashing things to relieve stress. I confirm it's as effective as nicotine. In general, I smashed it and gathered it all, put it in a trash bag, then went out to the balcony, threw it in the bin in the hallway. I watched the garbage truck pick it up and take it away, and I leisurely walked back into the house. I didn't care if it was bad or good. I just wanted it gone. The bathroom was now just a white wall, no mirror. I looked in there every morning, just to be sure, no smudges. Nothing. I lived better. I slept better. Everything is gradually returning to normal. Until today. This morning, when I pulled back the balcony blinds to let in the morning sun, I saw a smudge on the glass of the sliding door. Very small. Round. The size of a child's hand. I sighed. Not because I was scared, but because now I knew one thing for sure. I didn't break a mirror. I pissed something off. Damn, maybe I should go buy some salt, as the Asian guy at work suggested. Holy water would have worked better, but where would I find that stuff? Damn, I have to admit, my faith in science has never been so shaken. Bonus. I'm still in my old apartment, and things are going well. Or so I thought, but whatever. I'm not moving until I find a better place. Never.
2. The old comb in the drawer. I don't like telling this story because it sounds stupid and petty. And most of all, it makes me look pathetic, so pathetic. Really. I've tried to condense it into a few simple sentences, to friends, to my therapist, to myself. But every time I open my mouth, it sounds like I'm making up a cheap ghost story. And even the doctors, God, I swear I have so much respect and gratitude for them. The people who saved my life, but the way they look at me like I've overdosed on drugs makes it impossible to open my mouth to explain. I was possessed by a comb. Sounds ridiculous, right? But if you've lived alone long enough, you know that madness never comes in the form of screaming or banging on the door in the middle of the night. It comes in small, repetitive details, things so obscure that only you notice them, and the more you try to prove it, the more you feel like a fool. And that, more and more, your parents, your friends, the people around you will look at you with the eyes of a mental patient. My story begins with a drawer. The apartment I was renting was on the 3rd floor, facing north, not very bright, but quiet enough. I moved here after my 4th and final round of chemotherapy, when most of my hair had fallen out, leaving only a few wispy golden-brown strands scattered across the top of my head. And I decided to shave it all off. Hair, to me at that point, was just another part of my body that had fallen out, nothing more than a reminder and an annoyance. I was already depressed and tired enough from the hospital bills without it making me feel even more self-conscious about my current appearance. So I threw away everything related to it. Smoothing shampoo, blow dryer, hairpins, and of course my comb. All I had now was a bottle of hair growth stimulating oil. So when I opened the right drawer of my dressing table one Monday morning and saw a brown plastic comb with a few broken teeth and worn letters that were too hard to read, I barely reacted. I thought, it must have been left by the previous tenant. They must have forgotten about it or something. I thought about it for a moment because I thought it might be important to someone. However, it also probably had no value, so they just threw it away. So I put it on the sink, near the trash can. I intended to take it with me when I took out the trash later, but I completely forgot. The next day, I cleaned the table again, and the comb was back. Not under the sink. In the right drawer. In the same place. Just as neat as the first time I saw it. I swear, I wasn't even a little confused at that moment, just a little stunned. I'm still on some special medication now, and it often makes me forget this or that a little bit. So, I sighed and thought I must have remembered wrong. Maybe I put it back in when I washed the dishes or something. Probably. I threw it away again. This time, not afraid to get my hands dirty, I opened the kitchen trash can. The reason I didn't throw it away that day was because the lid was broken, so I couldn't use my foot to open it. Threw it in there and closed the lid. I slept late that night. I remember surfing forums, chatting about dramas, and laughing with my best friends until midnight. The next morning, I didn't open the drawer. But when I sat down to put on my makeup, I noticed something strange. The smell. Not clear. But it was something else, like old perfume, a little sweet, a little strong, mixed with the slightly musty smell of old people. It was the kind of smell that grandmothers and mothers leave on handkerchiefs after putting them away for decades. I flipped open the drawer. The comb was there. Wet. And the scary thing was, there was hair on the comb. I stood frozen, my hands on the edge of the table. My heart was pounding in my chest, so fast that my eyes were spinning and I almost forgot what I was looking at. My head was blank. That hair wasn't mine. The hair in the comb was a hand's length, black, shiny, slightly tangled and thick. My hair was auburn, thin, and waist-length. Damn it, in that moment, I completely forgot. I don't have hair. There's no way I did this without remembering. This time, I took a picture. The comb. The hair. The water stains. Then I wrapped the comb in 2 layers of Ziploc bags, put them deep at the bottom of the trash can, and added cans, tissues, and plastic containers on top. When I was done, I was still conscious enough to console myself. I guess I need more sleep. After all, I had fought cancer myself. I didn't think of myself as a weak or cowardly person. That night, I woke up. Not because of a nightmare, but because of a very small click, like someone gently opened a wooden drawer. I am a very light sleeper, and the current medications I am taking also affect the quality of my sleep at night. Anyway, I was completely awake. I lay motionless. There was fear, but more than that, there was still calmness. Calmness to listen carefully. No footsteps. No door opening. No lights. And especially, no distinctive breathing sounds. Actually, at that time, I was quite relieved, even relieved. Compared to horror stories, I was more afraid that someone had broken into my house. But it seemed not. So I pulled the blanket back, walked towards the dressing table. The object was on the table. This time there was no hair, but there was still a smell. And it came back to me, that comb. I began to doubt myself. That I was sleepwalking. That I was recalling falsely, as the psychiatrists say. Anyway, I couldn't let this happen any longer. I turned on my phone, put it on video, and took the box, sealed it, and put it in the deepest drawer. Then I rewound the tape, watched it a few times to make sure my memories were real. Still not satisfied, I bought a camera to put in front of my desk. A simple one, recording 24/7. I took a picture of the drawer every morning. I checked the image before going to bed. Nothing. Everything seemed fine, I told myself. 3 days later, I received a message from an account named Jules Merritt. No profile picture, no mutual friends, just one line. Sorry to bother you. I was your previous tenant. My mother died last year, and I left something precious behind, an old plastic comb. If you have seen it, can you give it back to me? I read the message over and over again nearly a dozen times. No one knew I had the comb. I had never mentioned it anywhere. The message came just as I wanted to believe it was a coincidence. I typed back. I found one. But it has appeared many times. I threw it away. It keeps coming back. Jules replied quickly. Can you send it back? It's the only thing left of my mother. I mailed the comb to the address Jules provided. 2 days later, I received a receipt. I was relieved. The third night after sending it, I woke up to the sound of something falling hard on the floor. The comb was under the table. I absolutely could not take it home. I turned on all the lights in the house, opened the balcony door, and took a deep breath. The cold wind blew in, but the scent was still there. This time it was stronger. Like someone had just sprayed perfume and walked past you 10 minutes ago. I picked up the comb, no hair. But my hands were shaking. I turned to leave the room and slipped. The floor was wet. I didn't know why. I hit my head on the corner of the table, and I felt blood coming out. My vision went black, and I guessed I had passed out. I woke up in bed, still dizzy. But no blood. No bandage. No trace. The comb was still on the table. I don't remember getting into bed by myself. I don't remember anything. I was really scared. I called my mom and told her everything, begging her to come here with me as soon as possible. I really wanted to go home or at least move out, but I couldn't. My finances didn't allow it. My mom came that day, and I burst into tears and told her everything. She comforted me, but her eyes were filled with doubt. It was obvious that she didn't believe the story about the comb returning by itself. I immediately shouted that I had proof. But when we reviewed the phone and camera files, there was nothing. Nothing. Except for the first photo with a few black hairs, the rest were unclear or even invisible. There was just me sitting there, panicking and muttering and doing something. I was speechless. This was more hopeless than me being haunted by that damn comb. I quickly opened my contacts, wanting to prove to my mother that Jules existed. But it was no good. The account was gone. My mother didn't want to provoke me. She told me to rest. She broke the comb with her own hands and threw it away, promising that it would never come back. And damn, it never did. My mother came home after 3 days, although she was very reluctant. I knew she was more worried about my mental health than about the fact that I was haunted. And so was I. I moved out of the apartment that same day. Didn't tell the landlord. Didn't get my deposit back. I only took my wallet, my phone, and a few clothes. Sometimes, I still tried to look for accounts with Jules' name, but it was no use. The account that had contacted me was completely gone. The comb also disappeared. But I didn't touch any drawers in the new house. I slept with the lights on, the kitchen cabinets sealed with tape. The dressing table was a simple shelf, just for the lamp and the medicine, no drawers. I didn't tell this story to anyone I knew anymore. I didn't even dare to think about it anymore. I also deleted all those pictures and videos. The details are so small, you start to doubt yourself. I also started to think, maybe it was just a product of my own imagination. Maybe it would be better.
3 I think most strange things start with small details. Too small for anyone else to notice, too faint to make you believe you're not imagining things. This story happened to me, but it's not really mine. Rather, the object I'm referring to belongs to the apartment across the street. To be clear, I moved into this apartment on a rainy afternoon last August. It was an old 6th-floor apartment on the edge of downtown Vancouver. Not too fancy, not too bad. But cheap and quiet enough that I didn't have to interact with anyone if I didn't want to. The apartment was nothing special. 2 bedrooms, a kitchenette, and a balcony overlooking the apartment complex across the street. I didn't have any special habits other than looking out every night. I don't know when it became a part of me. Maybe it was my habit of working late, or maybe it was because I was going through a less than happy phase in my life. Family issues, breakups, not having many reasons to get up early anymore. I don't do anything, nor am I unemployed. I've been working online since COVID, and now I do it for a few hours a day, quietly enough to survive. During the day, I listen to podcasts, water the plants. At night, I turn on the kitchen light and sit drinking cold tea. Can't sleep early. Can't sleep deeply. Maybe that's why I notice things a little too much. My apartment's balcony overlooks a row of houses opposite. Same architecture, same number of floors, same iron balcony, long glass doors and a plastic roof covering half of it. The balcony directly opposite me, less than 10 meters away, is where I first saw it. An old rocking chair placed close to the edge of the railing. The chair had a black metal frame, peeling paint, and a beige-gray cushion, like the kind my grandmother used to have in her garden when she was a child. I hadn't seen that kind of chair in a long time, probably only in old houses. I remember looking at it for a long time, trying to guess if anyone had ever sat there. As I said, it was just a habit. Mostly I was free and couldn't sleep. I had a lot of time to look and think for a long time. For weeks, every time I pulled the curtains to look outside, the balcony across the street was still the same. The glass door was closed, no lights, no trees, no people. Just a dead space, as if frozen in the middle of the flow of the apartment complex that still had lights on, people drying their hair, raising dogs, hanging wet towels. Only that apartment was unchanged. And the chair was still there. A quiet spot in the bustling city, very suitable for me. As I said, I paid more attention to it not because it was strange, but because it was so quiet. That silence and solitude strangely suited my mood. In a neighborhood where there was always a little movement, the sound of doors closing, light bulbs shining through curtains, the smell of cooking in the wind, the only thing that stood out was the motionless apartment. At first I thought it was empty. But I thought, who would leave a chair like that on the balcony of an empty apartment? Rain and sun would make the cushions wet and moldy and then rot. This would also corrode and damage the chair. Yet there it stood, upright, intact, all through the rainy autumn. Then one night, as I got up from the sofa to turn off the living room light, I glanced outside and saw the chair swaying. Not violently. Not windy either. I didn't think the weather was strong enough to make the chair sway like that. But I just thought about it and pulled the curtains and went to sleep. But when I lay in bed, I realized something. Even if the wind was making the chair sway, it wasn't like that. But just now, it was a very human movement, as if someone had just stood up, their hands still resting lightly on the armrest. A very light push, causing the chair, which had been moving forward by inertia, to suddenly stop, then swing back and then slowly stop. I lay still on the bed thinking about the empty house. No one. No lights on. Nothing except the chair that had just finished moving. I told myself that it must be because I was thinking too much, trying not to think about anything else. But this thought kept haunting me. Even though I knew I shouldn't, I still couldn't resist the feeling of curiosity rising alongside my fear. From that day on, I began to observe with more prying eyes. And the habit was quiet but had taken on a more stalking quality. Obviously, I didn't know what else to do with my evenings. I put my laptop next to me, turned on some videos of rain, but my eyes were glued to the chair through the glass door. After many days of observing, I came to a conclusion. The less windy the night, the more the chair shook. On the contrary, the chair was completely silent. I ran to the opposite room in the same direction as the wind blowing into the balcony of the other apartment, to check the wind speed. To be more precise, I even downloaded an application to track the weather in detail by the hour. There was a night when the wind was 0.5 meters per second, almost freezing, and the chair shook twice. But on days when it rains and the wind blows as hard as a storm, the chair is almost motionless, or sways so gently that I don't notice it. Not true. Not true at all. But it doesn't matter. No one calls the police on a swaying chair. I mounted the old camera on a bookshelf facing the window. One night in the middle of the week, I rewinded the footage from 1 to 3 a.m. At exactly 2:14, the lights in the apartment across the street flickered for a second, and then the chair started to sway. And in the reflection of the balcony glass, I saw a figure sitting there. Not a clear face, but a clear figure. Long hair, thin head slightly bowed, hands on thighs. The person didn't move even though the chair was swaying. I held my breath. Then the video flickered, the light disappeared. The chair stopped. The shadow in the glass disappeared. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't think I was crazy. On the contrary, I was more sane than necessary. I knew that if I told this story, people would think that. Besides, I had no one to tell it to. I began to wait for the night to come, even though I didn't expect it. Some nights I kept the lights on all the time. Some nights I turned them off, sitting in the dark, eyes unblinking. Once I tried to wave my hand lightly towards the chair. Stupid action, please don't copy me. The chair shook immediately afterwards. I'm not sure if it was a reaction or not. But after that night, I started to dream that I was sitting there. I started to lose my appetite. It was already unstable, but now I had no appetite. I couldn't sleep deeply, which could be partly blamed on the antidepressants I used to take, but I had stopped long ago. And I knew it was for something else this time. Every time I dozed off, it was a semi-lucid dream. I went out onto the balcony, sat down on a chair, and looked towards my apartment, where I saw my shadow standing there looking back. I saw two of me. The next night, after receiving the last text from my only friend who still asked, "If you keep quiet like this, I don't know how I can help you," I stood at the window for a long time. I thought, if I fell from here, people would find out soon. I didn't have any plans. I just thought, I could turn off the lights, open the window, and end this state of floating. At least my feet could touch the ground just once. The moment I touched the railing, a cold chill shot through me and I suddenly realized what I was about to do. God, I was tired, but I wasn't that desperate. It was like someone in my head was telling me to do it. I recoiled, stumbling to the floor. I crawled on all fours toward the switch, trying to turn on the light. I crouched down on the corner of my bed, shivering in fear of what I had almost done. This was not good. The next morning, I plucked up the courage to ask the maintenance man of the building next door. A gentle Polish man in his 60s. I was just curious. Is the apartment across the street, the one with the balcony chair, occupied? He looked where I was pointing. Then he frowned. Oh, no. It's been vacant for 3 years. The girl who rented it before lived alone and didn't interact much. I heard she was depressed. Later, they found her in the backyard. My heart went cold. Suicide? I asked. He nodded. From the balcony. Right there. No one has rented it since. I dimmed the lights. I sat on the sofa as usual. Only I didn't dare look at the chair on the opposite balcony anymore. I buried my face in the sofa, trying to sleep before changing the curtains in the house. I would change them all. And this time it came to me even in my dreams. The chair started to shake. From soft to strong. Then stopped. Then shook again. In my dream I got up, walked to the glass door. And I saw, in the reflection of the glass, I was sitting there on the rocking chair. On myself, with today's clothes, my face, my eyes, looking towards my apartment, smiling very slightly. I don't know how long I stood there. But when I turned around, I saw that the light in the room had been off for a while. And I was sitting on the chair. When I woke up the next morning, I was still lying on the sofa, thank God. The light was still on. The glass door was closed. And there's a super thick curtain, enough to block me from seeing anything on the other side of the balcony. But even so, the light, I don't dare look at the balcony anymore. Don't dare look at it even a little bit. Because I'm afraid, next time, I won't just see someone's shadow sitting on the chair. But I'll see myself, standing on the other side, smiling back. And if that happens, I'm afraid I won't be able to tell where I really am. Note, many people say I am paranoid because of the side effects of antidepressants. But I have been off them for about 3 years now. I have been on them and I know what they are like, and I am fully aware of what I am doing right now. If I was not sure about what was happening, I would not be telling this story. Believe it or not. Anyway, I am doing better, and I am definitely not going to do anything stupid. Bonus, I'm not sure if my almost jumping off had anything to do with the rocking chair in the apartment. But honestly, I'll try not to think about it anymore. That's it.
If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you don't miss out on these awesome horror stories.